Welcome to the Requel Pitch Podcast. This is a podcast where most of the times I pitch it while driving in the car, but today I'm actually just putting around the house in the kitchen and doing my thing. But basically what it is I take already existing properties. So IPs that, of course, I don't have any share in. And I just kind of pitch story ideas if I was the one in charge of those IPs. It's fun, it's a brain exercise, and just kind of gets creative juices flowing and gets the conversation going. And today I'm gonna pitch my movie idea for what I call Frankenstein and the Bride. But first, before we do that, let's talk about the history of the Bride of Frankenstein. And one thing I want to get out, Frankenstein is the name of both the monster and the doctor. In the book, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and some film versions, not all, the creature and the doctor have a father-son tete-a-tete, discussions, battles, play to their wits, and thus they use, the creation as in father, he is his creator, God, life. So in that, he would inherit his father's name. And even I think it's son of Frankenstein, Igor gives the line about the monster, the creature, being like his brother to Wolf, played by Basil Rathbone. So the monster creature is both Frankenstein as well as the doctor is. So that makes the title Bride of Frankenstein make a little bit more sense as we are looking at Frankenstein, the name for the creature. So that's out of the way. Now, another thing is, I've been doing a lot of discussions about the Universal Monsters because they're one of my favorite things. It's this time of year. The Dark Universe has opened. As of this recording, we just got the first trailer for Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride, starring Jessie Buckley as the Bride, Christian Bale as Frankenstein. My pal Brian over at Gravely Amusing saw the trailer and called it Frankenstein Fondle a Douche, which is his nickname for Joker. Folie à Deux was Joker Fondle a Douche because he hated that movie. I'm not that far behind him on that. Really, we don't like it. Interesting fact is that The Bride shares the same cinematographer and music score as composer. That's the word I was searching for. As Joker Folie à Deux, which is funny because those are the only two elements of that movie that are any good. But I don't know what to think of The Bride. I don't really know what the full story is. As of this moment, I will give it the benefit of the doubt just because the talent involved in making it. I find it interesting after watching the trailer. Jania says to me, why does she have this permanent black ink stain on her mouth? I also am not a fan of the idea that they just basically reanimate the same body to make the Bride. This was seen in Penny Dreadful, compared to the idea of going through the process like Frankenstein. The Bride also has become one of my favorites because of Creature Commandos. That version, I think, was the best character in that series and the best version of the Bride, honestly. But that gives me some discussion points, okay? I'm all over the place. In the original Monsters run, we have the Bride of Frankenstein. She only appears in the film, the last couple of 10 minutes. She's only in the movie for 3, I think is what they said it was clocked in at. But she left a huge legacy. But then we start getting sequels, like Son of Frankenstein, like I discussed. And that makes me ask, why? Why was the Bride not used more? We beat the crap out of having Frankenstein come back. We're like, ba-bam, ba-bam, ba-bam. We had Dracula come back. We had, what do you call it? The Wolfman return. Well, the best out of all of them. Also, because it was always Lon Chaney. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, but why is The Bride just as iconic, but is only in one film? Didn't even make a cameo like The Invisible Man did with the Abbott and Costello movie. And since then, why have we not got a really good version of the character? Now, if you look at my artwork for this episode, I kind of made a collage of pairings of the monster and the bride. We see the original. We see the version from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. We see the comic book, the DC comic book version, as well as the Creature Commando TV version. We'll see the bride from the 80s, that the movie with Sting, where the great Clancy Brown played the monster. You see the Mad Monster Party claymation version. We see probably the best pairing ever, the Hotel Transylvania version. We see the versions from Penny Dreadful. But going back to the book, where the creature comes to the doctor and says, I need a mate. And it's part of the theme of not being alone and having somebody. And we've seen versions happen where the doctor creates the bride and basically falls in love with the bride. And that goes to a whole other conversation about the mental state of the doctor and how having this almost childlike adult female and taking advantage of her. Brian and I discussed that on Gravely Amusing because that's a high theme in Creature Commandos version as well as in Penny Dreadful. But Penny Dreadful was really cool because that bride was interesting. How she developed and came to be in her whole purpose. But the bride is a character that is just as famous as the other monsters, but does not ever get play. I really like the lore that they've come up with for the bride in she's my favorite, but in the new Dark Universe. And in the Dark Universe, she's grown, she's matured, and she's shepherding the new Frankenstein's monster, Victoria Frankenstein's creation, as more of a sister friend role than a companion. And in a lot of the film's version, you have Frankenstein, the monster man, fall in love with his bride, but the bride rejects the creation, firing more for the doctor. And, I want to get on this idea as I have going before I've learned too much about the new film. Okay, because my ideas are different, but I feel that the story that I would want to tell. So my pitch is called Frankenstein and the Bride. And it's more of a co-headlining film. And you would open the movie set in the late 1880s.
Recording in progress.
So the movie would open, like I said, the 1880s with the creation of the bride, with the monster, aka Frankenstein, standing there right by the doctor. As the movie would go through, we'd have flashbacks to this scene, but it would be filmed in black and white, made to feel a little bit like kind of like the opening of Renfield, where it was like trying to fit in that Universal era. A little bit not as cheesy as Van Helsing's opening, where it was black and white, but looks like it was shot in color and then just like desaturated or whatever, not desaturated, but just flipped to be black and white. That is what I want to avoid. So we do that, and then a little bit of the bride kind of growing, and then basically the fallout between the bride and Frankenstein, and the two of them fight. And during the bride and the creature Frankenstein fighting, the doctor gets in between them and is killed. And then we have kind of this hatred that the bride has for him, and we get a montage, kind of like in Creature Commandos. I know I'm pulling from others to kind of as reference points, where it's jumping through time, and we're seeing them interact at different points in history. We're seeing them, and they both heal somewhat, but they still look like the creature and the bride. This isn't like Frankenstein, where he just looks like a dude with some scars. Like, there is some legit, they are monstrous in the same, trying to fit in. And it would bring us up to modern day, as in the story, which will be the 1990s. So almost 100 years later. Well, actually, it is 100 years later. It's just a little over. And the story is about them both growing on their own, and we see little bits of what their life had been like, separate, but then almost like through a series of not trauma bonding, but just realizing they were made for each other, and actually genuinely coming together for a common cause and getting to know each other as who they are and what they are, and not just that we were made for each other, but kind of finding out they were made for each other, but not in the sense of the laboratory, but in the sense of the people that they are. It would definitely be a cool way of showing the bride as a very strong character and giving her really the arc. But then, they are together, and they are doing things together, and how persecution follows them no matter where they are in history. But I really think that having a story of really showing them as together and their love grow and falling in love, and it could be a horror comedy, romantic kind of horror comedy in a way, with gothic flavor. I think that is what I would want to do. As far as, I like the idea that Frankenstein exists as there was a real Frankenstein, quote unquote. The family did all of this. And it could even be kind of almost a legacy sequel. Like I said, kind of like Renfield in a way, with the Universal version, because the bride disappears for so long. And we just kind of see, the end of Bride of Frankenstein, how they fall apart. But it could be like kind of her journey to finding him in their ways. And you could make the bride almost this hero, where you could do it at the end of Frankenstein, like the movie kind of opens up with the last moments of Bride of Frankenstein. Much more in line with the Renfield thing. And it's about how she survived, and she goes on and finds who she is and blazes her own trail. And then we get to, like I said, the 90s, and the Frankenstein's creature is found. It's like, is it fact or fiction? And she has to find out, is this real? Is this who I think is? And then she frees him so that he's not dissected and destroyed. And then they flee, and on their way they find each other. And come together in the life that they lead. I don't know. I just think that the bride deserves much more, and I think it would be good to see them together and have that story. I don't know, like I said, this new film, and as of this recording, we have not gotten the new Frankenstein by Del Toro on Netflix. I just really would like to see more with this character that's true to the more monstrous roots, and not some of these newer versions where it's just like a woman with maybe a scar or two, and she was just kind of basically brought back to life. Because I feel like that's just like rebooting a person. It's not really creating something new. But yet, if you take away someone's memories, are you creating someone new? That's a good debate if you watch Severance to discuss. But yeah, thoughts, favorite monster, let us know. Keep on watching the classics.